Welcome to the Digital Design Workflow presentation using the Autodesk AEC collection, Autodesk Architecture, Engineering, and Construction. So this a collection of products from Autodesk has many different applications, and I'm going to share with you a link. So when we go and look at the AEC collection, there are various products that come with the collection, products for Autodesk, for architects, Revit, AutoCAD, Forma, Navisworks, Insight for structural engineers. We have a robot structural analysis, an advanced steel. For MEP engineers, we have, AutoCAD, Revit, Insight, and more. For civil engineers, we have Civil 3D, InfraWorks. For construction professionals, all of the above, along with Fabrication CAD MEP and Recap Pro. So there's a lot to talk about. Today we'll be focusing on Forma, Insight, Revit, Navisworks, 3D Studio Max, and Autodesk Docs. Let's start with Autodesk Docs. So included in the AEC collection, Autodesk Docs is a cloud-based document management and comma data environment. Essentially, this is where we're going to create our projects. So with Autodesk Docs, you have unlimited projects in the Autodesk Construction Cloud, or what I call the ACC. Similar to BIM 360, the ACC is the latest iteration of the Construction Cloud. And basically, we can have, like I said, unlimited projects, document control, very granular level of document control. We can create document approvals, review workflows for one or multiple reviewers. We can do quite a bit of markups, but really, it really comes down to issues, assignable, accountable, trackable issues that can be placed on sheets and models and views. Also, transmittals. So Autodesk Docs is a great opportunity to create projects, to collaborate with your team, and to get the right information on site when you need it. In addition to that, the data that you have in Autodesk Docs is synchronized with what we call the desktop connector. Desktop connector is a drive that shows up on your hard drive, and you can synchronize the data that you have up in the cloud. Obviously, the Autodesk Construction Cloud, the ACC, is integrated with AutoCAD and Revit. There's 2D and 3D support, and basically more than 80 different file types can be viewed within the Construction Cloud. I'm going to click on this link and I'm going to go there. So here we are in the Autodesk Construction Cloud, and I'm going to go to one of my projects. So I'm going to filter my list. I see the East Residence Hall, project number 2112, and I'm going to go directly to Docs. There are a lot of different modules that are available in the Autodesk Construction Cloud, Autodesk Docs being the module that comes with the AEC collection. So let's go there. Here we are in the AEC collection. Here we are in Autodesk Docs, and I'm going to take a look at the project structure that I have created. You can create any project structure you'd like I said, synchronized with the Autodesk Docs drive on your computer. But we have a few files and folders created in this project, both Navisworks, Revit files, AutoCAD drawings, PDFs, photos, images, you name it. This project is a fleshed out project for demonstration purposes. I'm going to click right on the RVT file, and I'm going to take a look. So let me maximize this. We're going to look at an RVT that I uploaded to Autodesk Docs, and over here on the left side, you can see that this Revit file that has been uploaded to the project has both 2D and 3D views associated with it. So the 3D views, there are various cropped views, minimized to illustrate different areas of this project, or the overall, what I like to call a coordination view. We're going to talk about coordination views and Autodesk Navisworks when we get to that section. But you could see that I have various 3D views, various 2D views, and we have the capability of viewing those models and the versions, like I said, unlimited versions. So as I start reviewing the documentation that comes along with it, I can create these issues. So this issue was created and tagged to be a quality issue. You can be very specific about the due date and the location, where this is located. Obviously, it's on the sheet. We could tell that it's in this room, but that that issue can be assigned to individuals. It can be a published view or an unpublished view. When I publish that view, it becomes visible to anybody else viewing that sheet in this model. So there's so many different things that we can do in Autodesk Docs. We're going to go through and mention this throughout the seminar, the presentation today. But you could see that I could create issues of various types to help me organize it. There's even issue templates that one can create. We can do markups, measurement. I can attach photos to this project. So if I come over here and I say there's an issue over here with the sink, I can go in here and modify this photo and be specific about where that photo is taken. So let me add a photo from my series of photos that I've uploaded to this project. And now there's a photo associated with the issue and visible to the entire team once it's published. So there's a lot to talk about moving, and we'll come back to various things that are done in the construction cloud along with the AEC collection. The next topic is Forma. So Autodesk Forma is a cloud-based AI software empowering teams to collaborate, analyze, and design real estate sites. So basically, we use conceptual design capabilities, predictive analysis, and automation to make solid foundations for your project, right? So Forma is basically an opportunity to create 3D massing models, to automatically generate surrounding area, buildings, site, terrain, topography. We can do analysis with 100+ different criteria, such as noise, wind, sun, and microclimate. Anybody can use it, regardless of whether you're an architect, an urban planner, real estate developer. Forma is for you. So here's a couple of little thumbnails to discuss this concept of what is possible within Forma. Interoperability between different applications, analysis, these automations and analysis of those automations. And basically you can integrate your design either by modeling it here or importing content. So when you go ahead and set up a project, you can be anywhere in the world and you could generate surrounding context. So this is where my site is going to be. And by starting Forma, I brought in this topography and the roadway and the surrounding buildings. Let's give it an example. So here we go into France. We're picking our site and we're importing content that's freely available with the Forma application. We're going to import buildings, we're going to import roads, we're going to import terrain from the OpenStreetMaps or various connected data marketplace. So as you can see, we've picked this content and we've added these layers. There's my site limit, and here's the surrounding buildings that we've added. And we're going to remove some of these buildings so that the site or the proposed site is clean. That's a kind of an odd model of the but anyway. So real world data is being brought in, and you can enhance it with things like trees and site context. You can see we could change the scale of the trees. I'm not sure who's going to ruin that beautiful football field, but either way. So like I said, we could sketch with some of the freeform tools built on Forma, if you've heard of Forma before, and we could lay out complex buildings and parking. So I'm going to jump into Forma right now. I'm going to first move my thing aside. I'm going to go to app.autodesk.forma.com. So here we are. Here's my Forma site, and here's my recent projects. Not sure why it didn't preview, but here you go. I have a couple of projects already developed. One is partially hashed out, and here's another proposal that I created on the side that is not. So with Forma, we have the capability of creating line-based buildings or basic buildings. I'm going to start with a line-based building to give you an example. There's a lot of good help documentation available that comes along with it. And as you can see, it's going to snap across and give me an opportunity of building a 250-foot building. And as I create that building, I have the capability of deciding what the overall width of the building is, how many stories it has, what the overall height of those stories are, and then come in and even start to define different sections if I wanted to. One of the things that I like to do is I like to define the circulation, right? Is this a double loaded space? Is it a single loaded on one side, a line left, or a line right? I'm going to say it's double loaded, a line in the center, and I could modify the size of the corridor. Maybe it's a 6-foot corridor. Anyway, I'm going to come in, I'm going to draw a different section of a building. And I think 200 feet of work. I'm going to hit enter to finish that. Move it around, get a better idea of the, move this around. I could build additional pieces of buildings like the proposed site. Oh, that's going to work out real nice. There we go. And hit enter to finish. I always want to hit escape, but enter is the tool. This width is way too big because it's only going to be a kind of a corridor or pass through. Doesn't need to be 4 stories. It's going to be 3. You have a nice little building. And if you wanted to, you could also rough out those buildings or model those buildings in a 3D sketching mode. You can do all kinds of cute little trees to give you an idea on what kind of context it might be. I don't know why they're cylindrical, but right now, those are the trees that I designed. If I start comparing the two, well, before I start getting into comparison and analysis, let's take a look at some of the other features that are available. So these are some built-in features, and as I mentioned, there are some extensions that are available. So I loaded in this extension for parking. So when I'm ready to use that extension, I'm going to start roughing out parking. Wait, what happened? I'm in the drawing mode. Parking, test fit parking, and I'm drawing out my parking. No? There it goes. It just took a second to load. When you do things live, you got to be prepared for anything. So here's a quick little example of some parking that I can start to design and get an idea of how much parking could fit in this area and hit enter to complete. Pretty neat, right? So as I start going through this exercise, you'll see that there are various ways that we can create elements for this study: corridors, sections, floor plans, parking, and more. So let me give you a couple examples of some other ways that we can build. So as I mentioned, you could kind of change the corridor, and you could change the width. You can go in there and actually modify some floor plans. So I'm kind of giving an idea of a 12 by 16 floor plan. I'm using the line work tool to rough out an area of a floor plan or kind of a sketch of a floor plan, and it uses those in the sections that I predefined. Over here, there's another parking extension, which is pretty easy by picking a footprint that's available. So there's so many different things that we can do within this Forma. Now I'm going to talk about analysis. So once you rough out your building, you can do some analysis, some sun analysis, some wind analysis, or some microclimate analysis based on the surrounding buildings, the trees, and the design that you propose. Now that once you get all of that together, you can actually export these sketches. If you like the way that the analysis turned out, you can export these sketches to Revit. So there's an extension that one can download and install. And when you export from Revit, it will actually create walls, floors, roofs, buildings, a room for each unit, conceptual mass, generic models for other elements. It'll create the parking spaces. It'll create the terrain, as well as any other site limits and property boundaries that you might have established. So, adopt hybrid workflows with Forma, Revit Sync, enabling fluid connectivity downstream. Since we were talking about Revit or exporting to Revit from Forma, let's move into Revit 2024, my favorite topic. So included in the AEC collection, there is so many new features that are available with 2024. Some of the ones that I prefer the most are the dark theme, the project browser control, some visual styles that are available, twin motion, and more. So of these topics, I'm going to focus on a few: design optimization, design productivity, for instance. So here's the dark mode. First time that we've had the true ability to switch Revit into a dark mode. I think there were 2,000 icons that needed to be adjusted in case somebody wanted to switch to the default Windows theme or to override that theme and move into dark. All of the icons needed to be adjusted. But for me, it's my preference. That's where I want to be. So you can either let Windows decide how what theme you're using, or you can manually override and get into the dark mode. Since we were talking about the overall tools that come with the AEC collection, I wanted to focus on Autodesk Docs and the connection that we have between Revit. So we're not talking about additional modules that are available for cloud collaboration, like BIM Collaborate Pro, but we're talking about flat out of the box. You have the AEC collection, you have Revit, you have AutoCAD. How can we communicate with the construction cloud? With the AEC, we have Autodesk Docs. So that means that we have the ability to take our Revit model and save it directly into the cloud for people to review, to comment upon, or perhaps even to download and open up and work on. So when you have cloud models for Revit that comes with the AEC collection, you have the capability of taking that model and saving it. But that model has to be a non-workshare enabled model. So if it's a single Revit user model, then that model can be saved and moved over to the cloud. You'll see an image in the back. If that model was a workshare enabled, then you need more than just cloud models for Revit. You need BIM Collaborate Pro, and that's a topic for another webinar. Some of the cool features that have came out with 2024, Revit is the textures visual style. So we get the benefits of having the material and the textures that apply with those materials, but we don't have to actually render it. So I think it's a pretty cool opportunity. It ignores the effects of light so that it doesn't wash out or change the material's representation, even though it's in full sunlight. The assets appear distributed across all services, so the textures and things. It's really a nice opportunity. One of the other cool things that came with Revit 2024 is Twinmotion. Twinmotion came with 2023, but AutoSync and some improvements came with Twinmotion 2024. So we're making a connection between our model and the Twinmotion app. So you can actually synchronize the two. So you can make changes to your model and watch it show up, beautifully rendered and animated Twinmotion view. It's only available through 3D views, and you need the latest version of Twinmotion, which can be downloaded from your Autodesk account. Let's take a look at some of the other cool images that come with Twinmotion, or some of the other representations. This is literally a Revit model brought into Twinmotion. So fire, smoke, wind, animation, doors opening, lights turning on. It's an amazing tool. So we're going to share this link with you so you can kind of get a good idea of what tools are available for you using Twinmotion. Some other great tools that are available in Revit with the AEC collection is TopoSolids. So our topography is no longer surface-based topography. Now TopoSolids are literally a solid base element. We can convert existing topography into TopoSolids. We can link TopoSolids from external files, and there's a lot of really good information that comes with it. Here's a great image that illustrates the ability to take a foundation wall and a footing and actually subtract away from the topography, or what we call the TopoSolid. So we can cut things like walls, floors, structural foundations, and elements of a dozen other categories. This also gives us the ability to make tunnels and to place voids and things. So I'm going to jump into Revit and show you exactly how that works. Let's jump over to the site model example, and I'll give you a good illustration of how things can be cut with TopoSolids. As we wait for that file to open, let me talk about the next level of cool functionality. So here's an image where we've created a park, kind of a scenario with some catch basins or drainage or levels of topography. So the TopoSolid has the functionality, just like a floor-based element, where layers of materials or layer of site, like grass, earth, rock and sub elements. We can do things like use the Revit slab edge tool to put a curb or maybe a retaining wall on top of or alongside the edge of the topo solid. So there's a lot of cool tools, and the API is also available for topo solid related functions like generating and topo surfaces, simplifying topo solid points, subdivisions, and contour settings. Basically, some cool tools that came along with it. So as I jump back into Revit, let me go over to the 3D model view. I'm going to illustrate a quick little example of how one can cut topography, cut topo solids. I'm going to hide these elements. And I'm going to build a simple mass. So from the Revit Mass and Site tool, I'm going to place mass. It says that mass mode is enabled. There's the mass 1. And I'm simply going to rough out a sketch. And I'm going to go on the surface. So I'm going to draw a rectangle on the surface of the topography, right? And then I'm going to take that surface, turn it into, and make sure I got it. Yeah, there it is. It becomes a solid. And actually, I can even just move it down. And move it up. So there's a mass that's cutting the topo solid. I'm just going to use the cut tool. So literally cut the site with the topo solid. Let me do it in the right order. Hello. I'm going to cut with that. Come on. We'll try it again. Finish the mass first. So there's the mass. It's finished. I'm not in the mass editing mode. I'm going to cut the site with the mass. And there it is. So you can see that object creates a void into the topo solid. All right, that took a little bit longer than I expected. So let's get back. Let's move a little bit more into some other Revit features. Dynamo for Revit 2.7. We know now that Dynamo gets upgraded every time there's a Revit upgrade or Revit update or hotfix. So there's some cool features that came with 2024. Things like enhanced node autocomplete. So a little bit of AI getting in there so that the application recognizes what nodes you want to add in Dynamo, and it starts giving you some good practice, some similar nodes that might be useful in the workflow that you're beginning. So recommending nodes. There's some other things like object type ranking and things to assist the creation of your Dynamo graph. Speaking of Dynamo graphs, with the AEC collection and Revit comes generative design. So generative design works with Dynamo. Dynamo's in the background. Generative design uses those Dynamo scripts and the Dynamo player to use those tools and bring them right into your Revit application. So some quick other ones about improvements in Revit, placing multiple views on sheets and schedules. So you can select a bunch of views or a bunch of schedules and literally place them on the sheet. You can drag them from the project browser and you could put them into the project, basically saving time. Some other things, basically you align them to sheets. So you can select a bunch of views, put them to the sheets, things like views, schedules, panel schedules, annotation elements, revision clouds and tags. They all kind of come along with it. Speaking of some other cool tools that come with the AEC collection, Revit and Autodesk Insight. So Autodesk Insight gives us the capability of generating an energy model directly from our Revit project. So you take the Revit project with rooms and spaces, or rooms or spaces, right? MEP spaces, and you generate an energy model. In this case, I did an overall where I focused on the overall building rather than the individual rooms. Because what happens is when we're using an energy model or generating an energy model, it starts to stress out. It starts to generate a lot of information. So one thing that we can do now in 2024, Revit and Autodesk Insight, is focus on the area that we want to do the energy analysis on. So basically, I can go into a particular view, and I could specify and crop that view so that that energy model is only using the elements that are visible in the current view. Basically, you toggle that functionality and focus. So when we're doing the energy model and sending that energy model for analysis, we have to go through a lot of different settings to make sure that we understand what we're proposing in this design and how the energy analysis should be run. Right? So we build an energy model automatically with Revit 2024. We start getting into the specific types. What type of building is it? When will it be operated? I'm trying to click away. When will it be operated? Is it a 24/7 facility or is it a 9-to-5 facility? Estimating what type of energy system, heating HVAC system we're going to use. And over here, we actually get into some details. So we get specifically about how the wall construction is going to be built, right? We can use a generic wall element within a Revit model, but then be very, very specific about the type of construction, the type of insulation. And by having that information to our energy model, when we go and send it for analysis, it goes and does the calculation in the background, and it sends that energy model to the cloud, to Autodesk Insight, and it generates the analysis. Are we doing annual building energy simulation, or are we doing an HVAC system loads and sizing analysis? We decide which one we want to do, but that new feature in Revit 2024, focusing on the view and limiting the analysis, is really helpful. But basically, it is being done in the cloud. So when we take that energy model and we send it to the cloud, here's the result. So I'm going to go over to my energy analysis. This energy analysis, or this link, was generated and emailed to me when the analysis was complete. So that may not look like my building, but according to the settings that I chose, these are the percentage of glazing that was built into the model. So I can actually come in here and even measure to make sure. So it's 3.8 feet. Well, maybe that's a little low. But according to the energy model creation that I used, I generated a percentage of glazing across the building. So we can go and we can make adjustments to these energy analysis and then even do a comparison in insight.autodesk.com, and do some comparison between the building designs that we've created. But basically, here's the results. I'm getting a pretty decent result. It's 28.7 benchmark comparison, essentially dollars per meter squared per year, which is not bad. But when I started looking, if I had done my model a little bit more dramatically, made changes, you'll see that these will change over time. But I'm getting slightly more efficient as I move along. The orientation, right? So where was the building placed according to the sun, according to the location that I chose? So if I come in here, my model, the building information model, was over here, and essentially gave me that score. But if I wanted to, I can adjust that score or adjust where I'm going. And if I had adjusted it a little bit more, I'd end up making a little bit more of a cost savings. So there are a lot of instances where we can analyze the way that we prepare the energy model. Did we do enough shades on the north side? Did we have north glazing and the proper insulation to the glass? So there's a lot of different functionality that we can analyze and review. Infiltration, daylighting and occupancy controls. So it's a pretty interesting analysis. One of my favorite things is the way that we can get the payback based on how much solar panels we use in the design. Anyway, give it a shot. It's a really cool tool that comes with the AEC collection. So I got a lot more to cover. Jumping back into Revit, you can do some pretty cool daylight analysis right in Revit. So you can do single solar studies. You can get intervals now in 2024, and you could get the path, the sun path, and maybe even modify it based on the month or the time of day. Let's jump into another product that's available in the AEC collection, Navisworks. So Navisworks allows users to open and combine 3D models, navigate around them in real time, and review the model using a set of tools, including comments, redlining, viewpoint, and measurements, plus a bunch of plugins that come along with Navisworks. Interference detection, 4D time simulation, photorealistic rendering, and PDF-like publishing. So I'm going to jump right into Navisworks. Applications that I have open. Navisworks starts off in a really kind of a dark mode, but I'm going to jump into an out-of-the-box kind of version of the model that I generated. Where the heck is it? It's here, and it's called Hospital Project. Now, the reason why I started with that one, because it already imported a ground plane, the roads, the site context. But what we typically do when we're using Navisworks is we append files. So we add files to a Navisworks scene. We can link them basically and reference them throughout their design. So I'm going to append a couple of other files. So of course, I'm back into the wrong directory. So I'm going to go back over here to my Imperial list. And you can see what I wanted to do is compare the different file types that I have. So if I organize them by name, you can see the Revit model is about 82 megs. But what Navisworks does to the file is that it optimizes it. So a Navisworks cache file from a Revit file is a fraction of the size. So I'm going to start bringing in some Navisworks cache files. Fire alarm, sprinkler, HVAC, structure. I always forget the structure. There it is. Down here. Structure. And I'm bringing in the NWCs. That's just one of the workflows that I prefer. NWCs can be exported from your application. AutoCAD, AutoCAD Architecture, AutoCAD MEP, Revit, you name it. NWCs can automatically be generated, or you literally could link the authored file directly in. So here's my Navisworks scene. Navigates really super quick and super fast in comparison to the, the 80, 100 meg file that the Revit generated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually start by enabling a section view. So here's a section plane. These section planes can even be automated or animated. And we're taking a look at the building. We're moving those section planes up or down. We can even adjust the planes to maybe perhaps get a front to back kind of a thing. You can even, let me do the left to right. And if the left to right isn't working for us, we can even pick a plane that we want to use. So here I am, I'm looking at my building with a section plane that's perpendicular to the axis of the building. I have it selected here in Navisworks, and I can move that across and get really good analysis. But one of the really powerful things between Navisworks is this ability to do clash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a clash detection test out of the blue. I probably would call it architecture versus structure. So I'm going to grab the structure Navisworks file against the architecture Navisworks file, and I'm going to do a hard clash with zero tolerance. Bang, you run the clash and the results automatically get generated. And here we are. I'm hiding the other geometry so I can focus on the two elements that are clashed. This one, oh, what happened? This one happens to be a ceiling, and this happens to be a piece of steel. But as we go through the clash results, we can group them and we can organize them. There's a structure and a wall. But Navisworks is super powerful for finding issues with your model and presenting them to the team. Some of the things that have been improved in Navisworks is the ability to import Civil 3D geometry. Civil 3D is actually another product that's available in the AEC collection. So we can bring Civil 3D roadways and alignments and display those things with a lightweight viewer, which is Navisworks. We can do clash and cut sections. And so you're getting all of the geometry information. And I'm focusing on Civil 3D because there's a lot of really powerful information that's available in Civil 3D. So included as well. So I'm going to streamline and quickly move through a couple of things. FBX is a great option. The cloud managed available cloud managed Navisworks data. So I can even put these Navisworks files in Autodesk Docs, and I could view them. When you start getting into BIM Collaborate Pro, you can use Navisworks within that workflow. Issues assigned can be brought back. So I mentioned issues earlier. Issues created on a model can be brought into Navisworks. And also, I'm realizing that I have a lot of content yet to cover, so I'm going to rock and roll through some of these. But basically, Navisworks is a tool that optimizes the geometry. The Clash engine and the model optimization within Navisworks is constantly being improved. It's at the Clash engine V2, which is faster than ever before. Let's jump into Navisworks before I finish up my presentation. 3D Studio Max, also included with the collection. As you may already know, 3D Studio Max is the visualization tool for gamers and artists and you name it. So take your models directly in, texture, shading, do high quality rendering. When you bring in geometry from places like AutoCAD or Revit files, we have the opportunity of using a FBX file. The reason why I mention FBX is because, yeah, you could bring in the entire Revit model or bring in the entire AutoCAD model, but you also may just want to study or render a room or a section of the room or a corridor. By doing so and optimizing the area, you can bring in an FBX for a particular Revit view if you needed to focus and bring in the materials, the cameras, the lights, the character, and all of the BIM info that comes along with that geometry. So let me jump into 3D Studio Max real quick and give you a quick example. So rather than linking the entire Autodesk Revit project, which is close to 100 megs, I'm going to go in, I'm going to bring in just a section. So I have a section of the model exported out as an FBX. It's tiny. Bang. I bring that FBX from Revit. It brings all of the cameras. It brings all the lights. It brings all the material and all of the info. And it brings it in. And we can now visually study this model. If you complain about a camera, I don't care about the camera right now. And here I am focusing on that section of the project that I brought in, rendering and materials and bring in some other furniture and things. Let me click away. So when I click on an object and I use my orbit tool, I could focus around that object and get a lot of information about how this is done. You can see that all of the material that was applied in Revit came along into 3D Studio Max, but there's more. So I can render it with 3D Studio Max, or I can give it a kind of a cartoony kind of an ink representation. I can do a stylized or maybe even a graphite pencil kind of view. So your ability to visualize and illustrate your design is enhanced by 3D Studio Max, part of the AEC collection. Here's some other cool renderings that we did of that same building. Super powerful. In addition, you could always do some pretty cool animation. In this case, we're studying different layouts of windows in that same design within 3D Studio Max.